I would say that we've made a lot of progress with the rights of young children around the world. I think we've increased survival of young children. We've increased the access to primary education. We've increased rates of vaccination. So I would say in the last 20 years we've made some progress. But there are many areas where there are huge child rights problems. So of course we still have large sections of populations in developing countries and middle-income countries where children are malnourished. It's a very serious problem. We have a huge fallout in children moving from primary to secondary school. So secondary school enrollment rates are much lower than one would like them to be, particularly for girls. And then there are many more specific children's rights problems, of which probably the most dramatic is violence. Children are massively exposed to violence in the home, in the community, and even by the state. So in prisons, in many situations. But apart from violence, and of course then there are other child-specific problems to do with discrimination, disability rights, and so on. So to sum up, I would say that there's been some progress, but for especially older children, there is a very long way to go. Children seek asylum both for the same reasons as adults, because they face persecution, say if they are politically active or if they are discriminated against because of their race or their religion. But then children also seek asylum for child-specific reasons, such as fleeing from gangs or fleeing from recruitment as a child soldier, or sometimes children seek asylum because they've suffered domestic abuse. And so in that sense, children look for the protection of host countries for both the same and for different reasons. When they apply for asylum, children face a whole set of problems. Often they don't get access to lawyers who represent them. Often they don't even get guardians to assist them. So if children are unaccompanied by parents or by carers, it's very difficult for them to navigate a complicated legal system. Sometimes they're detained. And then often children just get a sort of temporary protection which lasts them typically until they turn 18, and then they are sent back. So it's better than being sent back straight away, I suppose. But it means that they're in this limbo of impermanence, which is, of course, traumatizing and is not a good way to build your future life. Apart from those children who do get protection, whether temporary or permanent, there are many who simply get sent back because many states don't think that children can make an asylum claim. And many states also have, I think, a simplistic assumption that home is always the best place for a child. Of course, in ideal circumstances, that's true, but many circumstances are not ideal. So many children actually experience the family or home as a place of danger rather than a place of safety. For example, if a home is a place from which a child has been trafficked or sold, then to send a child home is not a smart thing to do. So I'm now working as an academic, so I mainly write and do research, but I do also work with several different organizations. So I work with organizations that represent unaccompanied children who are seeking asylum or who need protection, immigration protection. In the US, there are several wonderful organizations that find pro bono lawyers to represent kids. And there's some organizations that provide child advocates to protect kids, so not necessarily lawyers, but advocates who will act like guardians, who will look at what's in the best interest of the child and help a court to come to a wise decision. So I work with some of those organizations. I also work with organizations that do lobbying more politically on the Hill in the US to try to influence government policy. And also in Europe, there are a very wide range of organizations that work on children's rights issues, including organizations that focus on undocumented children. One is called PICUM, is a well-known organization. Other organizations that focus on separated children who are alone or without families. So I have given them advice and used their materials, written things with them. So there is, and then I work very closely with UNICEF. So I work closely with the UN as well, and with UNHCR, so the two bodies that, you know, work on children and on refugee rights, who've done a lot of very good work in this area.